this session, so that will come out to you all after the session's concluded. And just our usual housekeeping announcements. So make sure that you have your cameras on if you're okay with turning your camera on. We do love to see your faces. If you're not in a place where you can do that, that is all right. This is a very interactive session, so if you didn't come prepared for interaction, if you're not okay turning on your camera, please be ready to join in breakout groups. I will be putting you guys into pairs in breakouts to do a lot of hands-on work with this whole appreciative inquiry topic. Okay. And then finally, just our note that we aren't using any artificial intelligence note takers in the session today. So I don't see any, so I think we're okay there. But again, you will get all of the slides and resources and everything after the session. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So we're kind of going to do, again, like a little bit of a refresher from where we started last time. So we're going to build on our understanding of appreciative inquiry. We will do a brief overview just for anyone who wasn't with us for the first session last month. And then we will kind of really build upon those skills and kind of further develop our understanding of the appreciative inquiry process. So last time we defined what the 5D cycle is in appreciative inquiry, and we worked our way through the first two of those. So we'll get through the remaining phases in that 5D cycle of appreciative inquiry today. So to get us started, and you guys can pop this in the chat, or we're a small enough group that if you are feeling like talking at this, bright and early moment in the morning for you all, you can unmute and share. So just your preferred name, what organization with, and if you were at last month's session, any takeaways or things that you've brought from that session into your practice. So while you guys are typing, I'll give a brief introduction from myself. I'm one of the folks that works with you guys from Rutgers University over here on the East Coast. My name is Jill. I really love appreciative inquiry, and I really love the kind of overlaying appreciative inquiry into career development theory and just how we can kind of really work with people from a strengths-based perspective. So I'm happy to join you. Anyone else like to introduce? Alex from Northwest. And if you guys can also just add in your introductions whether you were or were not here for session one, that will help me just kind of wrap my head a little bit around how deep we need to go into the overview. Great. Awesome. Seeing some folks from session one. Wonderful. All right. You guys can go ahead and keep popping those in the chat. Again, we will be doing a fair amount of breakout groups in pairs this morning. So you don't have to unmute yet, but I will be asking you to unmute in your groups and your partners shortly. Goodwill Industries, we've got some friends out here that work in the East Coast Goodwill Industries. Welcome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep us moving forward. So just again, a brief overview of the appreciative inquiry process and the 5D cycle. So again, this is a theory that really has at its basis what we call the positive core, and this idea that in all systems there is something that's working. So rather than focusing on things that aren't working, we focus on what is working in order to help us grow and change in our system. So this idea that human systems grow in the direction of their persistent inquiries. And within appreciative inquiry, we're consciously and consistently constructing our future with focus on these kind of positive core strengths of the organization, team, or program. Or in the case of career services, those positive core strengths of the individuals that we might be supporting. So the original kind of model of appreciative inquiry defined it as the 4D cycle, and they started with discovery. So this define piece, really thinking about what it is that we're going to be utilizing appreciative inquiry to kind of explore has come along later as it became the 5D cycle. So we start with that define, clarifying what it is that we're inquiring about. Then we go into discovery, which is that appreciative interview process that we spent some time working through that last month and really focusing in on asking those strengths-based positive questions. Last month, we drew that parallel between appreciative inquiry and motivational interviewing and kind of some of the parallel processes that we see within these two different methodologies. We talked some about how this is just another tool for the tool belt. So again, not something that's going to work for every circumstance or individual, but just another great tool to have in your skills. It seems like a lot of you were here for the first session, so that's awesome. Thank you for coming back. So we've gone through the define and discovery phases, and now today we're going to spend some time working through the last three phases in that appreciative inquiry process. So that dream process, where we're going to envision that positive future career. Then the design phase where we're going to really plan towards it, and then the deliver and destiny phase. So we'll take some time to work our way through those together. Just a note that this whole session has really been adapted from this monograph. There we go. Now you can see it. And the resource for this, the reference, is listed in the slide deck that you guys will all receive if you're interested in getting your hands on that whole resource as well. Okay. So the goal of this process is that we're going to create an action plan that honors an individual's strengths and articulates their hopes for the future. So as we work our way through the rest of our phases in our appreciative inquiry process, I'm going to invite you guys to think about it. I know I'm a big believer in we don't ask folks to do anything that we're not willing to do ourselves, which is part of why I have you guys start this process with really walking through this for your own selves. But through that process and through our time together and your work within the series today, really think about what it would be like to apply this with individuals that you're working with. Maybe think about some individuals that you have in mind that might be receptive to working through a process like this and what that might look like. And then as we go through and, kind of come back out of our groups and talk about the process, feel free to talk about any places where you think this might go well or any barriers you think you might face so that we can really talk about how we can apply it in a way that's going to be helpful for you all. So again, this is our career development theory with the appreciative inquiry approach kind of overlaid on top of it. So with our assessment phase, we have our discovery portion, and then we've got our exploration phase where we've got our dream process, and then action, our design and delivery. So we're going to be going through the dream phase and the design and delivery phase today. Okay. So again, this is where we got through last time. We talked about the origins of appreciative inquiry, how it has its roots in really like organizational developmental psychology and organizational change, but how we can apply that with individuals that we're working with. And we also kind of did that crosswalk between the goals, values, and principles of psych rehab. And then we practiced the appreciative inquiry interview and then summarizing that appreciative interview. So today, we're going to keep going with that skill building. So we're going to start with really looking at themes that came out of those conversations. And I will pull up what those questions were. I think most of you sound like you were here before, but for anybody who wasn't, we'll take a look at those questions in a moment and let you take a few minutes to just consider those. If you have notes from last time and you want to pull them out, now's a great time to do that. And again, we're going to go through some thematic review, and then we're going to dream and think about what an ideal work-life scenario would be. So again, you're going to do this for yourselves, but you're going to think about how this process would apply for the individuals that you're supporting in your career services programs. And then we'll combine the design and deliver phases together. Any questions before we keep moving through? Okay. So as a review, we have on the left side here were the questions that you guys looked at in your appreciative interview process. I can drop that file in the chat for anyone who doesn't have it handy as well, or who wasn't here last time. I'll make sure you guys have that for when you go into your group. So just to take a moment to kind of refresh yourselves with where we left off. So the questions that you guys asked one another in the conversations that you had in your groups, you were thinking about a time you were most happy or fulfilled in your work life, recalling peak work experiences, thinking about who was involved, what made you feel that way, and then also considering your values. So in our career services, we always want to make sure we're helping people to connect with positions that really are a good match for them in terms of their work values. So we're going to carry that thread through this process as well. So we had spent some time in our appreciative interviews working through that. And then you guys went and did some summaries, right? So you went back into your groups and interviewers kind of reflected back to the interviewees things that you were hearing and themes that came up for you. Any quotable quotes you guys might have remembered from your conversations. And then really summarizing the strengths that really shone in the stories that the individuals shared with you. Does that all sound familiar? Ish? Okay. So from here, um, take a few moments to kind of refresh yourself with these conversations, rethink about the stories that you told within your pairs last time. I'm going to pull up our files because our next step is going to be doing some thematic review and thinking about what the root causes are of your success. See, you guys are taking a look at that screen, so I'm not going to take it away yet, but I will. Let me get those files for you. So this first, oops. First, I'm going to drop in the appreciative interview doc. So this is just going to have these questions on it. And I'm going to stop sharing now so I can make sure that I'm sending you all of the right things. Okay. So we have our appreciative interview, and that's this form here. So these are the questions that were just on that slide that we shared. And then the next one that we're going to look at is going to be our personal themes. So I'm going to drop that file for you guys as well. All right. So here comes the personal themes document, and this is what we're going to spend some time working through first. So I'm going to pull it up and we'll just look at it together briefly. So again, you need to take a moment first to remember what those themes were and what those stories were. And then for yourselves, you're just going to take some time to think through these things. So this is not like the interviewer asking the interviewee these questions. You're going to take a few moments to consider. You can enter them in the file if you want, or just think through them and talk about them with the individual that you're going to go into your breakout with. You're going to think through what those root causes are of your success, right? So when we think about appreciative interviewing and appreciative inquiry. Remember, we're already always thinking about that idea of that positive core. So thinking through the times that you felt most successful, satisfied, happy in your work or career or education. What were the root causes? What things were at the core of these experiences for you? What patterns were there within those experiences? If there are any themes or values that you feel like are really important to you in your career that didn't come out in those conversations, you can list them here. And then thinking about your future life and work. What are the most engaging and exciting possibilities for you as you consider that? So, did everybody get those files that I dropped in the chat? Okay. I'm going to create some breakout groups. Let me get these started. Now, Darren, remind me, do I have you in breakout groups? I don't remember if I put you in
I think
breakouts.
last time you threw me in the mix because it balanced out
Numbers.
a little bit better.
Okay. Let
So I'm,
me,
I'm flexible.
okay. Let me get us started. Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing in breakouts once we get in there? Okay. So again, just thinking through your appreciative interview, thinking about the stories that you talked about, the themes that you created, and then identifying what those personal themes were. Oh, we just lost somebody, so let me recreate those. So you will have, it looks like you might have a group of 3, but you'll have either 2 or 3. So just think through these things and then talk about them together, including having a conversation about what you feel like these conversations might look like with the folks that you're supporting. Okay. I'll give you guys about 10 minutes or so, and I'll bring you back. I'm going to open these rooms now. Oh, Francie, did you get your invitation? Welcome back, guys. It's always a good sign to me when people don't jump back as soon as I send the room closing thing. I'm like, okay, good. We're still talking. On some of the versions of Zoom, I can see a little microphone when people are still talking, but our admin who sets this up doesn't have that set up, so I couldn't tell. So how'd that go? What themes came up for you guys? How did these conversations go? How do you see these conversations going when you apply these skills?
This is Alex. This is kind of more of my personal stuff, but we did have a few people. We had two other people in the group, so I mean, I think a big theme was, making like helping people, and helping people like fulfill their careers, was kind of a root cause of our success. I kind of went into I worked in advertising before I got into this field, and I kind of I was kind of disillusioned by the amount of money that was spent on these kind of just arbitrary ad campaigns. And so when I moved to Seattle, I really wanted to do something that helped people, and that has kind of drove me in this field quite a bit. And so yeah.
I love that. And like that value for you, right? Like you found
Yep.
that your values were in helping, not in, you know.
Spending money on, yeah, coal campaigns, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important, right? Like thinking
Yeah,
about the things that really matter to us and how we connect them to the work that we do, right? Like none of us are going to be happy when we're in a job where we feel like we're selling our soul every day.
exactly. Yeah, totally.
Um, at least none of us on this caller. I don't think we would be in the work that we're doing.
Exactly.
Awesome. And for you, like that kind of highlights, having that value met is one of the root causes of success for you, right? Like you're going to
Yes.
feel successful and satisfied when you're in a job that matches that value for you.
And I think that like shows up in your customers as well, is that, if you have that passion and you really want to be there and be doing that, like they're also going to be successful as well. So, your success and your experiences really do mold how successful I think you're going to be in this job.
Yeah.
Which I think a majority of us that are in these type of jobs, have similar experiences, have jobs that we went to that we weren't super into, or careers that we weren't super into, and we did want to do something that was helping. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Alex.
Hmm.
Any others? Any big takeaways from this part of the conversation, either for yourself or how you see it being used with others?
Well, I just want to shout out for Alex because I remember he talked about his clean coal campaign
Oh
last.
yeah, oh yeah,
That was a great icebreaker for the group. But it's just like, that passion and that intent to, support people where they're at and, improve through that discovery process. And I like how our group talked about empowerment, those opportunities where we're looking to empower people to try new things, and, through modeling and interaction that we're instilling that confidence for change. And Francie had a great story to share. And then Alana also shared about working with families and parents, because sometimes it's not just the person, but you have this other support group that you're also trying to empower or ease fears about change when people might relocate or start new services, in a different location.
Yeah, I love that. And then that kind of speaks to in the work that we do. reaching out to other participants in somebody's life and other natural supports can be really helpful and can kind of create these
Support.
moments of success, right? And let us know how important maybe networking is and having those networking skills and being able to connect with folks can be in our work. Absolutely. Did anybody talk about what it might be like to engage in these conversations with the folks that you guys are supporting? It's okay if you didn't. So I think one of the things that I like to make sure that we're remembering throughout this whole like process of the appreciative interview and how we can think about applying appreciative inquiry in the work that we're doing. And I know we said it last session, but just a reminder now, we're not going to go through all of these phases with somebody in one in one sitting, right? Like this is going to take time once we have that solid relationship built, right? So we have an opportunity to have that appreciative conversation, to hear stories from an individual about their life, about times when they felt successful. And sometimes those can be hard stories for the folks that we're working with to remember, right? So it can sometimes take some time and effort to work our way through those conversations and to highlight those strengths, right? Um, I always think about and really remember fondly, like being able to help people celebrate those successes and identify those successes and see those strengths when we see them and call them out, and kind of be a cheerleader for alongside the person that we're working with, right? Okay, so we've made it through our define, we've made it through our discover. And now we are going to keep on working through our phases. We're going to get to the dream phase now. So in this next phase of appreciative inquiry, we work with somebody to help them develop an ideal work-life scenario. So I have another worksheet for you guys. So when you're working your way through this one, you want to be thinking about writing it in the present tense. So I am, not like I am going to, right? Thinking about I am. So same kind of thing. I'm going to invite you guys to take about 5 minutes to think through the answers to these questions for yourselves, and then another 5 or so to talk about them with the folks that you're in the room with. I know we're groups of 3 now, so I might give you guys a little bit longer just to make sure that you have enough time to get through. So the things that we're going to be looking at here are like what an ideal work-life scenario would be. What are the things that are most important to carry forward? So I'm hearing like some themes already around like helping others, being communicative, collaborative, those sorts of things. And then thinking about the things that help you to have energy and a feeling of purpose within your work. So let me pull up our next file real quick. Okay. So this one, by no surprise, is called Ideal Work-Life Scenario. Um, so you'll see the questions on there. The best work situation for me, I'll pull it up so we can look at it together, and then I'll let you guys have at it. So the best work situation for me is one where so you want to think about being positive, strengths-based in our language as per usual, right? And that we're being really bold, thinking about life-giving forces that you want to carry forward. What an absolute ideal work life scenario would be, and what it is about that position that provides that feeling of energy and purpose. So you can dream big on this. It doesn't have to be within like the kind of confines of your current situation. Really thinking about pulling all of those things that we've worked through together so far. So thinking about those themes, thinking about strengths, thinking about our values, and identifying what that ideal work-life scenario would be. So did you all get that file in the chat? Make sure you have that before I open these up. So I'm going to open those breakout rooms again. Feel free to go grab coffee if you need it. I understand that it's early for all this interaction. Okay. So how was it to dream big?
It was good.
Did we let ourselves dream big?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure we were in the dream big. We're just still getting to know each other, kind of about some of the things that we do. So from my perspective, we really didn't get to the dream big piece.
Right.
I think the first time I walked through this, I did not dream big either. I kind of dreamt relatively close to present reality, right? Like we don't often get, you know, I don't know about the option, that might not be the right word, but invited to, I guess, dream big, right? So it can be challenging to think about like, okay, these are all my strengths. Well, if I could do the most perfect thing for me, what would it be, right? It can be challenging to think about that. So like I would say reflect on that experience as you try to apply this with the folks that you're working with as well. And thinking about like what their best work situation might be based on their experiences and strengths and values.
I do like this structure because it matches with evidence-based practices of IPS, supportive employment, because there's always that thing, what's your dream job?
Mhm.
And I think for me, in looking back, it'd be helpful if I had that ability to dream a little bit bigger. I could probably support somebody else who could dream big too, and then nurture them. So I kind of like this as a stepwise in that discovery process.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in concrete resources and tools that people can practice, try out for yourselves, and then use right away. So I'm hoping that you guys find these things useful in practice. And I'm always available via email. So if you try something and it went really well and you want to talk about it, or you try something and you're like, well, that didn't go how I expected, you can feel free to reach out at any point about any of that. Um, Any others? Any big takeaways from this, or even you know, things that you think might work well with the folks that you're supporting, or any challenges you foresee in using this with folks you're supporting? Anything else on this step of the process? Okay, if
Okay.
okay. Well, then without further ado, we will jump into the last component. So as promised, we're going to kind of compile these two. So this is going to be our design and deliver. So one of the questions on this I really love, and the woman who introduced me to appreciative inquiry, she always asks this in she gets so excited about it. And I just love how she asked this question. If you were to be 10 times more bold, what would you do right now? Right. So thinking about like how Darren even said, like, I don't know if I was as bold. So if you were 10 times more bold in terms of your own career process, what would you do right now? So that's going to be one of the questions that you're going to look at. You're also going to look at what you would change, adapt, or adopt in your current situation to get the sense of purpose and energy gained through your ideal position. So if you didn't quite get to that ideal position yet, you're going to be invited to think about that a little bit more and just think about what about your current situation would you want to tweak maybe just a little bit to get you a little bit closer to what might be a more ideal situation for you. Um, and then for there, you're going to think about all the things that you've identified, narrowing down to maybe like 3 things that you would want to change. And then from there, one thing that you will change. So thinking about your current situation. And again, we're going to be present tense. So when will you start? When will you complete that one thing that you want to change to get yourself a little bit closer to that ideal situation? Ask yourself if it's connected to your strengths that you've identified throughout this process. Thinking about how we want things to be measurable, think about how you will measure whether or not you're successful in taking this step or not. And then thinking through really like what steps will you take to do that one thing that you've identified, and what order will you take those steps in. So here is your last document. So similar situation, because this one's a couple things combined, I'm going to give you guys enough time to do it. If you finish early, come on back, and then if one group's finished sooner, I can check in with the other group. But there is a little bit more kind of stuff to think through individually on this one before you start those kind of group conversations. So we'll do probably about 15 minutes altogether for this one. I'll pop in a message in the chat when it's probably about time to start having your group conversations if you haven't already. Did everybody get that last document, that sequence for success document? It should be in your chats now. Make sure you download that before you go in. And all of these files will be sent as well. I mean, you all have them, but they'll all get sent out with the materials as well. All right. So I'm going to open up our rooms for one more small group conversation, and I'll see you guys back in about 15. So our last section of our five, well, the last two sections of our 5D cycle, how'd that go?
It went well.
Good. Were you guys able to identify something that you would do if you were 10 times more bold?
Yeah, I will be a motivational speaker,
Ooh, I love that. I
even
love
though
that.
I'm scared to talk now.
You're doing just fine today. I think
It's by
that's an
force.
awesome goal. It's by force. I don't know. There's some choice in the, you can always opt out, right? And you stuck it
Yeah,
through.
I
That's
don't like opting out though.
Were you able to choose one thing? So that was your 10 times more bold. Were you able to identify one thing you would do?
Yeah, the motivational speaker.
Yeah. Did you identify a step along the way to that you wanted to take?
Uh, no, not really.
It's all right. Food for thought for the future, right? And also a good reminder that this stuff is not really intended to be done all in one sitting, right? So sometimes it takes some time to chew on these things, but just knowing
Mm-hmm.
that about yourself and continuing to kind of think through that can, maybe lead to some interesting possibilities for you. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thanks,
Maybe
Sarah.
start off being a mentor somewhere.
There you go. That's a great first step. And then there's some
Mm-hmm.
other questions on that sheet that might help you flesh that out a little bit more. Like when, how will you know when you've reached that goal? How would you get there, right? All those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What about anybody else? And or how you might apply this within your work? Can you see yourself having these conversations with the folks you're supporting?
Yes. We're getting them, let me see, giving them a certain time, of doing job applications. Try to do at least one or two job applications a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's a start.
Mm-hmm.
Work
Yep.
on working with your resume.
Yeah. Helping people get to that ideal job match, right?
Yes.
Those specific measurable steps.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to add anything to this or any things that you see that could be barriers to working through this process with some of the folks that you're supporting?
Well, for me, one of the barriers just always kind of feeling a bit overwhelmed, even with the work that I'm doing, and then it's hard to kind of see beyond that haze, of responsibilities and things to do. So that's kind of my internal struggle to be
Mhm.
able to manage that better because I can't see being bold beyond the fog bank of current responsibilities. And sometimes I do have a good work life, it's not a balance, but maybe some equilibrium there, but it's hard to get to.
Yeah.
And just, focusing on self-care and, looking at it support like my supervisor I showed, I'm able to have some flex schedules, to kind of help with some of that self-care. So definitely, I'd like to be more bold after, but it's
Mhm.
it's really hard to kind of see beyond that right now or into
Yeah.
that sphere of
Yeah.
boldness.
That's fair enough. And I think, again, like one of the things I really like about appreciative inquiry and these kinds of conversations is that we start from where our strengths are. We start from themes and things that are really important to us. And then we move to like, well, in an ideal world, what would things look like? Okay, we're maybe not in an ideal world, but maybe if I were really bold, what would I be doing? And then let's I don't want to say scale it back, but let's think about a step that we could take today that gets us a little bit closer to where it is that we might like to be eventually, right? So but again, all focused in our strengths and in our values and in the themes of things that are really important to us based in kind of the stories that we tell about times when things were going really well. So kind of taking um, that component all the way from the beginning where we started last month and kind of bringing it through to help us kind of shape our future and help us support the folks that we're working in to shape the futures that they want to live. All right. So I think we're going to be wrapping a little bit early today, probably because we're a smaller group than anticipated, but I don't think anyone was ever sad about having 15 minutes back before their next meeting, so I think that's okay. So just working through our wrap up. So again, we talked a lot about appreciative inquiry over the last 2 sessions together. So I just invite you guys to think about things that could help you to really implement these tools within your practice. Again, you'll get all of these worksheets. Please feel free to use them. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about any of them. I'm always happy to talk about appreciative inquiry and strengths-based career development. So please feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions. Happy to share any takeaways or aha moments or any questions anybody has. And then we have our survey. So I'll drop this link in the chat for you as well. Or you can use the QR code if you prefer that. And then Darren, am I missing anything? Any other housekeeping items from your end?
No, I just want to thank everybody for participating today and participating in all the breakouts that we did. There's a lot of information, some of it new for me, but definitely I'll share with some of my network because I really like breaking through that discovery process and looking, for those goals that we can support people on their journey. For me, employment's really important and education as well. And I just want to let people know that we have a boatload of Rutgers trainings coming up in June. So check those out in our upcoming FCS newsletter. A lot of great trainings coming up. So definitely hope to see many of the folks here today on those as well. So thanks everybody for being great participants today. And thank you, Jill, for all your expertise and sharing some great resources too. So definitely I'll send out a thank you note to everybody with some of the additional items that you have in the PowerPoint as well.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much. I know it's early to be so engaged. I appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with it and hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.